Welcome back to the Adventure Athletes podcast. In this week's episode, slightly different. I'm going to be sitting down by myself and talking directly to you guys, the listeners. This is quite uncomfortable for me. I've never done this before. It's weird having a conversation by myself. And something I really did want to do, but it would just take too much time, is I wanted to record it like a normal podcast where I'm asking a question to a guest and then the guest is answering back. And I was just going to get changed between each one. So I'd ask a question, run round, take a jacket off or whatever, sit down, answer the question, and then run back and do the responses that way. I thought that would be absolutely hilarious, but I just do not have the time to edit it. So this is a nice, easy way for me to get a podcast out. And we're talking about my 496 challenge. So this is where I ran 1 kilometre corresponding with the day of the month throughout all of January. Lots of people did this challenge. I'm not the only person that did this, but we'll delve into that in a little bit. To start off with, I just wanted to say a massive shout out to BigMoose. They're going to be a big part of this episode as well. As you know, I'm fundraising £10,000 for BigMoose this year. 496 was part of that challenge, and so far I've raised £750 towards my goal of the 10,000. So it is a big chunk of money. I have never fundraised that much before in my life, so thank you for every single one of you that's donated. I'm also doing a run club now, giving money to them that way, and I've got loads more fundraising ideas. So although it's a big chunk of money, we're still only a fraction of the way. We got a long way to go, but it's a long year. We're 1 month in. We're now in February, so let's keep it going. If I do the same each month, 10 grand done for BigMoose. Like I said, big shout out to BigMoose. I've recently graduated therapy through them, and it does feel like that. It feels like a graduation. It was a very sort of surreal moment coming out the other side. If you need help, all I can say is reach out to BigMoose. And if you want to support what they're doing and support me and what I'm doing, donate to my fundraiser. I can directly see the impact it has on people. One, because I've gone through it, but I'm also now referring people to it, and I'm seeing them get the help they need within such a short time frame. So it's amazing to see the impact that BigMoose are having on the community that I'm a part of. So thank you, BigMoose, and let's keep smashing these fundraising goals, guys. Right, so let's get straight into it. I've got a few questions on my phone that I've got saved to sort of give me a starting point for this, and then I'm also going to be going through all my Instagram posts, and I'm going to be doing a screen record which is going to be popping up somewhere here-ish, and I'm just going to talk through my experience, and this is going to be very real. This is the first time I've watched these videos back since recording them. So yeah, I'm sure it's going to bring back a flood of memories. But yeah, let's get straight into this. I'm delaying. It's weird. I'm nervous doing this. I never just usually talk like this. So this is different for me. Maybe I'll make it a more regular thing. So let me know in the comments if you want me to do this more often, because I don't know why you would, judging by how it's going so far. I'm 4 minutes in and I haven't even started. So yeah, you'll just hear me waffling on. I'm just trying to find the questions now. So, question number 1 is... I'm doing an awful job at this. I do apologise, guys. Trying to figure out Instagram. Not going well. Right. I've got it. So question 1 was from Jenks, Jenks88 on Instagram. He actually turned up for the last day of my run, and yeah, he's going to be coming on the podcast, so that's exciting. He asked, on day 26 and the pain I shared on camera, it's inspiring, and he loved the honesty. Did I almost quit? Now, for those of you that don't know about day 26, that is one to look forward to. I'm going to answer that question when I get round to it, because, yeah, it'll make more sense with the clips and once we've gone through it from the beginning. So, yeah, we'll get to that one, Mike. Don't you worry. I have not forgotten about it. Then I've got a couple of comments, not questions, but comments from Ben, who is one of the reasons why I did this challenge. He did this challenge in December, so doing it over like Christmas and everything, like fair play, like that takes a lot of time out of your day, and especially with like family commitments and everything around that time of year. Yeah, fair play, Ben. He's just said to be open, honest and vulnerable, which I'm going to be. I'm really trying to be vulnerable with all of the stuff I'm doing now. If I'm encouraging people to go to therapy and be vulnerable and put themselves through that vulnerability, I can only do but lead by example. So yeah, it might get a bit emotional. I can feel it coming already. Loads of people apparently try and play it down and act all sort of like cool, and that they're not hard. Like they're not hard things to do, and they absolutely are hard things to do, and they do suck, and Ben knows that from first-hand experience. So yeah, when we get into it, you'll see why it's hard and all of that. And then I've gone on to South Wales Running Community Facebook, and I posted on there like I'm going to be doing this episode, talking about the experience and whatnot. Ask me some questions. The first question, which I think is a really good one to start on, is what is the 496 challenge? Now, the 496 challenge is a challenge where, like I said, you run 1 kilometre corresponding with the day of the month throughout January. So by the end of the month, you would have run 496 kilometres. This is a thing sort of brought about by Sean Conway. I know a few other things and like companies and people have done this before, but Sean does a big push for it at the start of every year. So that's essentially the challenge. On the first day of the month you run 1 kilometre, on the second you run 2, on the third you run 3, and so on and so forth, till on the 31st you're running 31 kilometres that day. Now I massively underestimated this. I thought I'll do it in kilometres, it can't be that hard, like I can run 31k. I've done a 50k race, but then when you really look at it, for the last sort of 11 days, you're running a minimum of a half marathon, like every single day, and you don't get a rest. There's no rest days. There's ways you can be smart about it, but then it's also like I've got 2 jobs. I've got this podcast to run, I've got podcasts to edit, I've got all the clips to put out on a daily basis. There's so much that I'm trying to work around doing the running. And as you can see, my runs got way slower than I ever thought they would by the end of it. So by the end, I'm sort of spending 5 hours a day out on my feet around 2 physical jobs. Yeah, it was not easy in the slightest, and I massively underestimated it. But that's what the challenge is. And like I said, Sean Conway did this. He did it this year as well. Like he actually took part, and there's a big Strava group of people doing it, people posting, sharing their progress every day, and that was a massive help. And at the end you can buy this medal. Now there's no proof that you've done it, you could just buy the medal anyway, but then it's not really going to mean anything to you, and it costs about 18 quid. So yeah, don't waste your money if you haven't done it. But then this is the first time I've got a medal that I sort of can look at, and I feel proud that I've got it, because I know how much I went through. I've done these other races and I've not won, and they still give you a medal, and they've chucked away, like they're just in a drawer somewhere. Like I've not looked at them since doing it. Whereas this one, like I'm actually really proud of this medal. Otherwise I wouldn't have bought it. I never buy medals, they just sort of come with the entry. and I wasn't going to buy this until I finished it, and I was like, wow, okay, like I'm buying that, like I'm really proud of what I've achieved. So that is the 496 challenge. I know I'm rambling a bit. Like I said, I am nervous. This is not going well, but I'll let you guys be the judge of that. I got I think that's how you pronounce it. Sorry, I actually know Mai as well. Like, I trained with him at Willpower, so sorry if I'm pronouncing your name wrong. I've just never actually tried, which is quite weird. And he just says, just why? Why did I do it? And honestly, I did it on a bit of a whim. So I saw Ben, who I'll tag in the show notes, Ultra Bungle Taylor on Instagram, I believe it is. Yeah, shout out Ben. Like I said, doing it in December, through Christmas and everything. Fair play, mate. And I knew he was struggling at times, but he was posting every single day that he did it. And I'd been speaking to Bob Thomas on the podcast not long before that, and Bob had brought it up that he'd done it in kilometres and in miles. And he said there's a group chat of people that were thinking of doing it, and they were going to do it in kilometres, and he was like, well, why don't you do it in miles? And it was just playing on my mind. And then I thought, you know what, I'm going to do it. I saw Sean Conway posting about it, and he said, look, if you're interested, join the Strava group, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, I'm probably not going to do it. I was meant to be doing the 4:48 just after Christmas, but I got tangled up in a few other things, and I ended up in Scotland. So I didn't end up doing the 4:48. I did run a half marathon on Christmas, which took me a good few days to recover from, which I find hilarious now. I was so tight, but did a half marathon, had a few days off. Then I was out in the mountains in Scotland. I ticked off all of the 3 peaks in the the 3 peak challenge in the UK. So I did all of that, and then on the first day of the year, so January 1st, when the challenge starts, I'd done like Ben Nevis, and I was like, oh, okay, I've done Ben Nevis. Did it with my mate Aidan, who had been on the podcast as well. So we went up to Scotland, we watched the fireworks in Edinburgh, went straight to Ben Nevis, climbed Ben Nevis, and I'd got down and I dropped him off, and it was the second, and I'd seen this challenge, and I was like, I'm not going to do it. And then I was like, well, I've already done more than 1k yesterday, so I'm gonna do it. And I just decided there and then, snap decision, got out of my car, sleeping in my car, got out of my car, just did a 2k run, and I recorded it. And I put it up on Instagram, as we'll see in a bit, and that was my snap decision of just, I'm going to do it. Doesn't seem that hard. Ben did it, and he inspired me by posting every day, so then I just videoed it, and I was like, I'm going to do a video every day, and I'm going to share my experience. And this is where we've ended up doing this podcast, so it's obviously something worth talking about. So yeah, mate, that is that answer. I got a few questions from Maria Roberts. So the first one is, how do you choose your challenges? So with this one, like I said, I'd just seen it about, and it just interested me. I just found it really interesting. Like I said, I'd spoken to Bob, who's done it, and I actually got a message off Bob like pretty soon into the challenge. It was the first time someone had messaged me about the challenge, and he just put, why did you not do it in miles? And to answer that question, since it's been thrown out there, I didn't want to. Plain and simple. I knew I wouldn't have the time. Running an ultra day for the last 6 days did not tickle my fancy. So as much as I do, because really I do want to do it, but fitting it in, I was starting a new job on the 8th of January, and I knew between 2 jobs and the podcast, there is no way I'd have enough time, so I thought kilometres would be more manageable. For my other challenges, I just set things that are really hard. So I've got my 12 labours, and they're constantly changing. Like, my challenges never stay the same. I'm constantly jumping between challenges and deciding which one I want to do. And it's just what excites me at the time. It's what I find interesting. My 12 labours, there's a whole process behind it where it's linking with the story of Hercules and his 12 labours. And there's the philosophy behind that. I'm actually writing a book about all of this. So it's going to have the story of Hercules, the sort of philosophical meaning, and then what I did to sort of replicate my own labour to match his. And the whole process I'm going on with that. So there's going to be a whole book by the end of it. I've got 12 years to do it. I'm already 2 challenges in, and I've got some side quests going on which will go in the book as well. So yeah, that'll be interesting when it's done. But I've got 10 more to go yet in the next 11 years. So keep your eyes peeled for that. But yeah, basically, it's what just interests me at the time. The next one was, what excites you to want to do a particular challenge? And honestly, the thought of it being scary is what makes me want to do it. I've been thinking about this a lot recently, where despite being a personal trainer and a gymnastics coach, and I've coached sports for like a long chunk of time now, I don't train how I would train other people. I would not recommend people do the sort of workouts that I'm doing or the sort of challenges I'm doing. If they want to, I am fully there for it. I will support them like nobody else's business. But if they're just trying to get fit and use science and research to get fit, which is the best way, don't train like me. That's how I go about it. I'm not doing it for sports science or anything like that. I'm doing things that scare me and to challenge me both physically and mentally, but more on the mentally side. I'm really trying to find the breaking point of my mind compared to my body in doing all of these. So that's what I'm looking for in these challenges. I think that's why ultra endurance stuff really excites me. But I think that's also why this sort of strength endurance, like this ultra strength endurance, like the marathon tire flip that I'm looking at, I think that's what's going to really excite me and really test me beyond my limit. And I will find my limit at some point, when I don't know, and that will just be my current limit at the time, and I'm sure I'll find a way of pushing that even more. And then what puts me off? What puts me off these challenges is the fact that I'm taking myself to the limit. Yeah, these challenges are brutal. They come with a lot of hardship. And yeah, when you're pushing yourself to the edge, things get real. It gets really serious really quickly. Especially someone like myself that has struggled with mental health issues. Doing these challenges and finding yourself in these dark places in your head it's not necessarily the healthiest thing to be doing. Going through BigMoose, I've really started, and the therapy I've had, I've really started to understand what got me into doing these challenges in the first place. And it's sort of like doing the right thing for the wrong reasons. But now that I'm understanding the wrong reasons behind it, and I'm understanding what I want to get out of doing these challenges, that's sort of switching it to doing the right things for the right reasons and using it to build myself up rather than tear myself down, and put myself in this place of suffering. But yeah, it can get pretty serious pretty quickly. So yeah, it's definitely something that scares me sometimes. Got some questions here from Nathan Marshall. Now, Nathan is a previous guest on the podcast, and he's one half of the Just Run podcast. Honestly, love listening to their podcast. Even if he does steal my guests, Nathan will get what I'm talking about there. But yeah, it's a great podcast. If you're into running, and especially if you're in South Wales, but even if you're not, check out the Just Run podcast. Great content. He asked me, did I learn anything about fueling? Now, if you know me, you will know that my diet's not bad, But I do not hold back when I want to eat some cake or some pizza or whatever it may be. If I want to get those calories in, I will get those calories in. It does not matter to me where it comes from. Again, I'm not looking to be the healthiest person in the world. I just want to eat what I like when I want. Most of the time, that's pretty healthy. Doing a challenge like this where I don't have a huge amount of time to cook as well, that went to the wayside. So if you are listening, Nathan, I basically just fueled off of Tesco's reduced cake, to be perfectly honest. And my managers at my new job, they bought me a ton of cake from Aldi as well on the last sort of few days of the challenge. So I was just, gorging off cake and Huel. I had a lot of Huel, as a typical podcaster would. Unfortunately, I'm not one of those that's lucky enough to be sponsored by them. So buy it or not, I don't really care. It doesn't make a difference to me, but that's what I was having simply for convenience. Did it get easier for me? At no point in the challenge did it get easier for me, and you will find out why when it gets to day 24, and you'll really start to understand what went on from that last sort of week. I will say, before it got hard, it did get a little bit easier, and I started banging out some pretty fast 10Ks. There was one day, I think it was day 22, where I did like 2K earlier in the day, and then I did a 10K between jobs, and did a sub 60 10K, and then I was like, wow, that was quick. I've still got another 10K to do though, and that's going to be after work. So that was about 10 o'clock at night, and I was like, oh bloody hell, got to go out do a 10K now. Did another sub 60 10K, so that was a pretty good day. And then it just, I was like, things are looking up now. It was hard, it's looking up, getting them done quick, and then boom, injuries happened. So we'll get to that. Were you surprised at how well your body coped? No, I wasn't surprised. And if I was surprised, it was negatively, not positively, because my body did not hold up. I was pretty worse for wear coming out of that challenge. And my biggest takeaway from it, ooh, that's a hard one, Nath. What I thought was going to be my biggest takeaway, and I was just talking to my dad about this, was how I thought I would have this great appreciation for time. I thought by the end of it, I was going to look back and be like, wow, how did I fit 5 hours of running into this day? Like, I've got so much more time than I thought. But those 5 hours were taken out of my sleep a lot of the time. They were taken out of my podcast editing. They were taken out of podcast recording. And now that I'm not running, I've taken those things back and I'm working more. So although I could fit more stuff into my day, I also have fit it in with catching up on the things that I missed out on, if that makes sense. So I thought that was going to be my biggest takeaway, and it just hasn't been. It's not really made a difference in that sense. I guess it's just that you've always got the choice to take the time for yourself. Like, I didn't think I'd be able to fit in 5 hours of running a day. I'm quite a busy person. I don't even watch films because I don't have the time for it. Podcasting is probably what takes away most of my free time. So the fact that I can fit that time in when I need to is probably my biggest takeaway, and that if you really want something, if you're really trying to achieve something, you can make time for it. And it doesn't matter if other things go unbalanced for a little bit. Sometimes, and this was funny enough, I was listening to my own podcast with Lloyd Watkin, and we're saying, like, a balanced life doesn't mean that everything has to be balanced all the time. If you're doing these challenges, you're going to have to be unbalanced on the side of the challenges. But then once you're done with that, you might need to take some time off and go the other way and find the balance for your family commitments or your like mental health commitments and things like that. So being balanced isn't a static thing. It's very dynamic and moving one side to the other. And when you look at the bigger picture, eventually it will be pretty balanced if you're doing it right. You don't want to go too far down the side of I'm just doing challenges, everything goes into that, and then you look at the bigger picture and you're like, I've really been neglecting this whole other side. It's just about almost like periodizing, as we do in sports, where we'll go through blocks of different types of training, and then over the year it sort of flattens the curve. That's what I'd say has been my biggest takeaway. That's a great question, by the way. I've got some questions from Tina Grech. How did I find the spirit to carry on when I felt really tired, unwell, or fed up? Now, this is going to be very relevant of what actually happened, because there were times where I was really tired, I did get very unwell, and I was fed up for a lot of the challenge because I do not like running. Just the thought of, I said I was going to do this thing. And when I tell myself, it's not telling anyone else. If I tell myself I'm going to do something, I will do everything in my power to make sure that happens, because I don't want to be the person that says they're going to do something and doesn't do it. When people do that constantly, like, I'm going to go to the gym tomorrow, and then they don't go, or I'm going to get to bed on time and they stay up scrolling, or they tell themselves they're going to do something, I'm going to start this diet, and then they don't. Every time you don't do it, it's a hit on your confidence, and it's a hit on your sort of trust and honesty to yourself. So then the more you say stuff and you don't do it, the less likely you're going to do the things that you say. So I think you just need to just commit and do the things you're going to say. And I said I was going to do this thing, and so many times I wanted to quit, and so many times I didn't want to get out and run. But I had to. I just had to get out, and I just had to do it. That's all that went through my head, was no matter what, I am going to try and keep moving. I'm going to get out there. If I walk, I walk. If I have to crawl, I'm going to crawl. But I'm going to get out, and I'm going to try my best. Now, if I try my best and I fail, that's okay, because my whole thing is I've said I'm going to try to do this. That thought of I've said I'm going to do it, I'm going to try, that's just what kept me going. Andrew James, another previous guest of the podcast. Great podcast. Definitely go and listen to him. He went from being 24 stone to running an ultra in 12 months. Now, like, that might not seem like much, but when you really think about it, being like morbidly obese to running an ultra marathon in 12 months is incredible, and he has not stopped since. Like, he is still going. He recently did the Brecon to Cardiff ultra marathon. Incredible. Massive shout out to Andrew. So he's asked, how did I manage blisters and chafing if I had any? Now, I did have 2 pretty big blisters on my right foot on different toes at different points. The first one came pretty quickly, and that's because I forgot my running shoes one day, and I ran in trainers, and that gave me a blister like instantly. And then the other one was on the bottom of my big toe, right at the end of the challenge, literally on the last day. Honestly, I didn't do anything for him. I probably should have looked after him a bit better, but I just sort of let him be there, and then once they'd been there a few days and sort of filled up, I just like popped it and left it to it. And then chafing, I had chafing twice on the challenge, on like the 14th I think it was, and then on like the 26th. And yeah, I just sort of left it. I've never had to deal with that before, so I just let it be, and it wasn't too bad. It didn't stop me, so that's the main thing. Favourite footwear for the challenge and socks. Now socks, I just wore whatever socks I had. The socks really didn't make any difference to me. My footwear, I got some Salomons, I think. They were just some cheap trail running shoes from Go Outdoors. They were like reduced with the Go Outdoors member card. I really need a new pair. They are absolutely battered. But I tried running at first I was running in barefoot shoes for like at least a week, and then on the trails they were just slipping about too much, so I just put on my trail shoes for the rest of it. A couple of days I had to run in flat trainers because I just forgot to bring my running shoes with me. I'm not really a gearhead in that sense. I just sort of do stuff. How do I rank it in terms of challenges compared to all the other crazy things I've done? Now, Andrew's referring to, I'm assuming, my 50-mile barefoot walk and my attempt at doing the Welsh 3000s in under 24 hours, which I did in 17 hours. With those challenges, it's a day and you're done. So you just push through, and although they might be physically more challenging, you know that you just keep pushing and then it's done. With this, it was very emotionally draining, especially towards the end, where each day, and there's a guy on Instagram that did this challenge. He did the tombola version, so he put all the numbers in a hat and he would pull it out each day, and that's how many kilometers he would run, and then he would throw that away. So his one levels out a bit more, and he was describing the original version of when you climb a mountain. Like I've been using Everest because everyone knows Everest. If you climb Everest, you start in one place and you walk to base camp and you stay at base camp and you're looking up at Everest and you're like, wow, there's such a long way to go, but I'm at base camp. And then you go to sleep and you wake up the next day and you're back at like the closest town or whatever, and you're like, okay, now I'm going to walk back to base camp. That's not too bad. And then I'm going to go up to camp 1. And then you get to camp 1, you're like, wow, I've made some real good progress here. And you're looking up and you're like, yeah, it's still quite far, but it's doable. We can do this. And you go to sleep and you wake up and you're back in the town. And then after a while, it's sort of like, well, I've got to do everything I've just done and some more. And I know that tomorrow I'm going to wake up back at the start and have to do it all again. And having that thought in your head, I hated it when he posted that because that instantly resonated with me. And it was just mind-numbing. And yeah, just waking up to that and being like, wow, how am I going to fit in these many kilometers in this is how much time it's been taking me. How am I going to fit this in around my work and my podcast and everything? And it was hard. It was extremely hard. And that really did get to me. So in that sense, I would say it's one of the most demanding things I've had to do, especially when it got to the end and I was ill and injured and everything. It's probably one of the hardest things I've done. Although the 50-mile barefoot walk was very brutal as well, and there's a couple of clips up on Instagram from that, so that's definitely worth checking out. Cool, so they're all the questions I've been sent in. So I'm gonna switch on my screen record now, and we're gonna go through my Instagram, and we're gonna watch some of the videos and go through it. Now I'm gonna be telling the story from each day, so we'll watch it and then I'll pause it, and then we'll go through it and talk about it. So screen record on. So I didn't record anything on day 1. Like I said, I wasn't planning on doing it. I was just up Ben Nevis with my friend, and yeah, that's way more than 1 kilometre, so 100% counting that. Welcome to the Adventure Athletes Training. My name's Will and I'm joining the Calendar Club. This is the 496 challenge set by Sean Conway, where you run a kilometre corresponding with what day of the month it is. So today's day 2, so we're doing 2 kilometres. I found out about this from Ben. I'll tag him as well, so
Ultra Bungle.
you can see that I'm on it.
Let's go.
And yeah, feel free to join us. I know you might have missed the day, but if you ran 1k yesterday, join the 496 club. That's how many k we're running this month. Let's go, guys. I honestly had no idea what I was saying. I just started running and I started recording myself, and I was like, I'm going to do a video each day. Now, there is a little snippet I want to pick up from that, which was one I've already mentioned about Ben like doing it, and that encouraged me to do it. But I called it the Calendar Club, and this is because there is a guy on Instagram. Check him out, Mark Dowdle. He is doing this every single month for a year. So he's like, I want to say 9 months in now. And he's doing this, so he's already done January, obviously, he did December, and he's doing it in miles as well, so it's insane. And he's doing it around work too, like he's got a job and he's doing it around that. So massive shout out to Mark, he is doing some incredible things. And then for February, what he's doing is he's doing it because he only ever runs outdoors, and everyone's saying, oh, do it on a treadmill. So he's doing it on a treadmill in February, but then because he feels like doing it on a treadmill's cheating, he's doing it outside as well. So he's doing double the mileage in February. So fair play, mate. Like, you are killing it. That was a massive source of inspiration as well. So definitely check him out. Right, guys, here's day 3 of the 496 challenge, where I run 1 kilometre every day, accumulating till on the last day of January I would have run 31 kilometres on that day, 496 in total. Just driven 5 hours, so nice easy run just to get my body moving again, get this 3k in, and then yeah, I can get back, have some proper food, which I haven't done for about a week, so I'm looking forward to that. And I guess I'll see you tomorrow, guys. So with that, I was in North Wales on the way back from Scotland, and yeah, I obviously drove back. Took me about 5 hours. I'd spent like most of New Year in Scotland, or driving about in different mountains, different places of the country. I was all over the place. I did 1,500 miles of driving in the space of like a week, which is insane. So yeah, I drove back. I was sleeping in my car for most of that, so I wasn't eating proper food, just whatever I could be bothered to cook in the back of my car in my little stove pot. So yeah, getting back and then being like, oh, I've got 3k to run already. I didn't want to do it, but then I was like, oh, it'll be easier now that I'm back at home. So there was that. Welcome to the Adventure Athletes Training. I'm doing day 4 of the 496 challenge, where each day I'll run the kilometres equivalent to what day of the month it is, accumulating at the end of the month to 496 kilometres. Now I've done a nice early one today, keeping it easy going in the trails. Things I like about running on trails is, 1, you get out in nature, you get to appreciate the landscape around you. I'm lucky living in Wales, I've got lots of trails around me. And then secondly is the fact that you can't decide a pace when you're on trails, the trails decide the pace for you. So you might go out thinking, oh yeah, I'm going to hit a PB today, ground's too wet, too muddy, you're slipping everywhere, very hilly, you're not hitting any PBs. So it sort of forces you to slow down and appreciate it. Welcome to the 100% agree with myself. I do love trails. It is the best kind of running. If you are a road runner, get yourself on the trails, like get yourself muddy. It's so much more fun. You get to be out in the middle of nowhere. You don't get to see people that often. It's just great to get away and clear your headspace and get away from like cars and buildings, and just back to how life should be, in my opinion, like just getting out and doing stuff. And yeah, you can't set the pace. Like, you might want to be like, oh, I'm gonna beat my 5k PB, and then you're running and you get to like, it's been a bit boggy and you're stuck in a bog and you have to like try and squirm your way around it, or you're going uphill and it gets really steep and you just can't keep up the pace. yeah, if you've got set trails that you're doing and you're setting targets for yourself based on previous performance, great. But yeah, what I do want to say, throughout this challenge, I did not plan a single run other than the last run. Like, all of my routes were just ad hoc. I just went out and I was like, let's see where I fancy running today, and I'll just start running. So that was great.
Right guys, it's day 5 of the 496 challenge. That means I'm running 5 kilometers. So for every day in January, I'm going to be running the same amount of kilometers as the day of the month it is. So 5th January, 5k. Now, this isn't how I'd usually recommend progressing to a 5k. Do 1k, 2k, 3k and so on, day after day. But I am releasing a 5k training program. Sorry, I was getting a bit technical now, getting very muddy too, but yeah, 0 to 5k program is being released this week, so check out adventureathletes.co.uk for your 3 program. Okay, we've already got a free intro to weightlifting program, so if that's more your style, check that out. Yeah.
So I do want to give myself a shout out, www.adventureathletes.co.uk, and you can get yourself some free programs. So if you're looking at starting running and you want to do a 5k, that is just as challenging for some people as my 496 challenge. Just because I've trained and built up to things like this. I know I didn't train specifically for this, but I've got the base for it. I've done ultras. Like, this is a doable challenge for me. A 5k is just as much as a challenge for someone else. So if you are looking at taking on a 5k, there's a free program on the website. Like, literally, you don't have to pay a thing. You get access to the app and the community around my training as well. So check that out. But yeah, definitely, if you are looking at doing a 5k, don't just go 1k one day, the next day do 2k. Like, not a proper training method.
Alright guys, so today is day 6 of the 496 challenge, which means I'm running 6 kilometers each day. I'm adding a kilometer to my runs to match what day of the month it is. Today's probably the first day I really just didn't want to get out. Finished work, got home, all I want to do is sit down and eat, but we've got a challenge to complete, so I'm out here running, listening to podcasts and just doing whatever I can to get this 6k done. It's not a lot, but it's enough when you don't feel like doing it. Bring on day 7.
That was the first day that I was like, I just don't want to go out today. My first weekend working through it, so it was Saturday. Saturdays is one of my longest days coaching, so I'll start at 8:30 in the morning and I'll finish at 5 o'clock, and then I don't usually get home till about 6, and I just got home and I'd been on my feet all day and I just wanted to eat. That's all I really wanted to do, but I knew if I sat down and ate, then I really wouldn't want to run, so I got up and I got out there, and I just had to make that switch of just like, no, you're doing this, go and do it. So that's what I did.
Today is day 7 of the 496 challenge, where I run 1 kilometer corresponding with what day of the month it is. So today is day 7, so 7k. Another late one for me. Just, most people get to do their long runs on the weekend. My day off from work is a Wednesday. That's usually when I do my podcast and that. But you know, we got to fit it in after work, before work, wherever we can. So let's keep it moving.
Again, after a weekend of working, I just really didn't want to do it, and I knew I started a new job the next day and things were just going to get harder. But yeah, looking back, thinking that was hard, I had no idea what was coming. I was clueless. You can see I'm talking, I'm starting to build up my confidence in front of the camera, so that's great. But yeah, I needed to switch my head game on a bit.
So today is day 8 of the 496 challenge, where I run 1 kilometre corresponding with what day of the month it is. So today I started a new job at Snap Fitness in Pontyclean, where I'll be personal training and doing some of their classes. So to do today's run, I did it on their treadmill. Didn't really fancy recording myself on a treadmill. It's so dull. I hate treadmill running, but got to make the most of what you have available to you, and treadmill is what I had available to me. I'm also keeping up with my strength work. Now this is going to be a bit of a challenge later on in the program, so I'll probably have to cut down on the strength work to keep the challenge going, but I'm trying to make it work best I can, but sometimes we have to make sacrifices. So today I sacrificed the outdoors, later on I'll sacrifice my strength to get it done.
Right, so I am going to stop going through all of the videos. We will go through them just as a reminder, but I'll stop them pretty quick. Yeah, I did try and keep doing my strength work. That was something I definitely tried to keep doing. It got to a point where I was just like, no more strength stuff till I'm done. But I was hitting decent numbers. They weren't the worst, and yeah, I got my running still. I did start the new job as well, so this is where things time-wise started to get more tricky for me, was fitting in. Even just like a 9-10k run started to become more difficult than it usually would be. But yeah, my strength work was still going, so that's something. I probably did that for another 10 days, and then I was just like, no, this is it now. So you can see here, I've turned the sound off, still squatting, and then on this day I actually ran 10k. So on day 9 I accidentally ran a 10k because I got lost and I got stuck in a bog. And then that's when I realised doing stuff between jobs was going to be more hard, and I needed to make sure I had clean clothes with me because I ended up in a bog, which I didn't intend on doing. Like I said, I didn't plan my routes, so I needed to bring spare socks with me because my socks were heaving that day. It was not good for the gymnasts. So if any of my gymnasts are listening, I do apologise.
Today is day 10 of the 496 challenge, where I run...
So the audio actually did cut out on that clip anyway. That was a good reminder because that was the first podcast I recorded while doing this challenge, and that's the one I recorded with Andrew. So yeah, like I said, that was a great episode with Andrew, so definitely go and check that out. And he really inspired me that day to just be like, don't think about the numbers, just get out and do it, and it doesn't matter how slow you are, you're still out there running. So yeah, that was a great episode, and that was a good run to go with it.
Today is day 11 of the 496 challenge, where I run 1 kilometre corresponding with the day of the month.
I can't actually remember this day that well.
11k today. I'm just out. I don't know where I am, to be honest. I'm just running. I found myself on this little road, trying to keep a half decent pace. I'm nowhere near as good as running as I used to be, but I'm out, I'm moving, I'm fitting it in between jobs.
So that's where I really started to notice my pace was dropping, and I really started comparing myself with myself at that point, and I was like, I used to be able to run way quicker. I did a half marathon at a 5-minute kilometre pace back in 2019, and I was looking at this and I was like, I think I was doing a 6-minute kilometre or a 6:30 kilometre, and I was like, oh bloody hell, I'm going slow. Again, just naivety. I had no idea that it was only going to get worse. In my head I was like, I'll keep this pace going, it's achievable. Yeah, not for me, it wasn't.
Today is day 12 of the 496 challenge.
Now, this was an amazing day for me. That was the day I went to a meeting with Jeff from BigMoose, and we spoke about just everything BigMoose, and that was the day I committed to fundraising £10,000 for BigMoose. That was the day that it all clicked, and this became a fundraiser. This became something bigger than myself. Up until then, it was a selfish thing, and in my head, like, that's all it was. It was just another challenge for me, something else to just tick off my list. But as soon as I got involved with BigMoose, all of that changed, and it became something bigger than myself, where I was then doing it for a purpose. And you can see, like, my attitude starts switching, and I start bringing more positivity into the challenge.
Today is day 13 of the 496 challenge, where I run 1 kilometre corresponding with the day of the month. Today is the 13th of January, so 13k it is. Now today is a very busy day.
Now I remember this day. This was a weekend where my gym were doing an awards evening. So I remember I had to get up at, in my head, like, I stayed up the night before late trying to figure out how I'm going to fit it in, because I was working 8:30 till 5, and then I had to be at awards night for, I think it was like 6 o'clock. So then I was like, I'm going to have to shower and get changed in that hour gap and drive to where I'm getting showered and changed and drive to the place. And then it's probably not going to finish till late. I was expecting it to finish at like 10. I didn't end up getting home till midnight. So I'm glad I did end up getting up early, but I was like, I was going to try and squeeze it into that gap. I was like, 13k in an hour, I can do that if I really push myself. And then I decided what I'll do is I'll get up early and I'll do it in the morning. And then I was like, I woke up at 6 and I really didn't want to be up. And I was like, oh my God, I've got such a long day. And I laid in bed and I procrastinated for about half an hour, being like, I'm just going to do it later. I'll do some of it like in the gap, and then I'll do some of it when I get home, and like it'll still be the 13th, so it's fine, it'll work out. And then it got to 6:30 and I was like, no, just get up, like, stop being lazy, get yourself out of bed and get running. Like, you've left it too late to be doing the full 13 before work, because you still need to have breakfast and get ready and get all your stuff together, pack your suit, whatever else. And I got up and I started running, and I just kept getting closer and closer to the 13k mark until I eventually I hit the 13k, and I was like, right, I've got some time now to eat very quickly and get myself to work. So that's what I did. And then I went out after coaching, did my strength training that day, showered, changed, and got to awards night a little bit late, but it wasn't too bad. So yeah, that was the first day I really had to try and compromise on things just to fit it in. So up until then, pretty smooth sailing.
Right guys, today is day 14 of the 496 challenge, where I run 1 kilometre corresponding.
So on that day, I needed to talk to people on that day. There was a lot going on in my head. I've recently gone through a breakup. Starting a new job, the stress of work and being self-employed and running this business and the podcast was getting to me. I was still going through my therapy with BigMoose, but I just needed to talk to someone when I was running. So I called up my parents and I just spoke to them for a couple of hours when I was out, just plodding along on some tracks. I'd never been on those tracks, and I just remember afterwards, after putting the phone down, I felt more at ease. Just having shared that experience and spoken what was going on in my head. Even if I didn't tell them I was struggling, it was nice to just share the load. And that's what I'm really trying to get at with this whole BigMoose thing, is you've got to be vulnerable. You've got to just put yourself out there and go through this. And then on the other side, even if you just feel a bit better, it could be that little bit that just makes that difference. So yeah, it's definitely worth it, and that was the day it was really clicking with me, myself.
It's day 15 of the 496.
Now that day 15, that was a really nice day. I went out in between jobs, and I just got running. I ended up going up this mountain called the Billy Wint. and I was just running around there, just doing laps of the Billy Went, because it was such a nice view. It was such a beautiful day. I just really enjoyed that run, and I was just really grateful that I could be able to do it, not just physically but mentally as well, and be like, you know what, not a lot of people would sign up for this challenge. There's people out there that don't even get the chance to run. They don't have the ability to run, and I was just really grateful that I could do those things.
Welcome back. It's day 16 of the 496 challenge.
Now you can see just by my attitude there that things were going well at this point. I was just getting out, I was running, I didn't care about how fast I was going, and I just, at that point, like the day before, I just started celebrating the little wins, and that's something I really needed to do. And I was talking to my therapist about this, and we were just talking about how I need to just, rather than setting these big goals and then you do it and you don't feel anything, you're just like, what's next? And there's always that feeling of what's next. And I never took the time to really appreciate what I'd done and what I've put myself through, especially at the time when you're doing it. And on these days, I was like, look, I've gone out and I've done it again. I've done 16k. I've done like so much distance by this point. Yeah, and I just really started to celebrate myself, and I was like, you're doing really well. And that's the first time probably ever that I've honestly looked at myself and been like, look, you're doing really well. I'm getting a bit emotional saying this because it's still quite hard for me to hear. Like, when people tell me I'm doing well, it doesn't feel like I'm doing well. It's like, no, this is just what I'm meant to be doing. Like, I'm meant to be doing this. There's no I'm doing well about it. Like, I'm just doing what I have to do. And that was the first time, genuinely, I've sort of looked at myself and I've been like, yeah, keep going. Like, you've got this. You don't have to do this, but you are doing it. And that's something to be proud of. Yeah, that's that day.
For every day in January, I'm running 1 kilometre corresponding with the day of the month. Day 17 kilometres.
Again, like another upbeat day. I had recorded 2 podcasts this day. So this is the day I recorded the Lee Davies podcast, and I also recorded the Terry Rossman podcast as well. Now, both of them are great podcast. Lee is this incredible ultra runner. He won the Tenny-Fan event last year, so running up Panavan and back down 10 times, and the event is to do it in 24 hours. He did it in 10.5 hours. Now, if any of you have been at Panavan, you know how insane it is to run up and back down Panavan in 1 hour, and doing that 10 times back to back is insane. Lee is incredible, and the podcast absolutely just mirrors that. And then with Terry, he's on this mission to improve like people's lives by setting them challenges. Now, they're not challenges like this one. They're these little, like, you've got a weekly challenge, and at the end of the month you get this little pip, and it's part of this initiative, Team Rockman. If you don't know about Team Rockman, go check them out. They are incredible. I'm currently doing the February challenge. I'm a little bit behind because of recovering from all the running, and I've tweaked my neck as well now, so that's pushed me back a little bit as well. But I'm going to get them done in February, 100%. Yeah, they're both incredible podcasts. Like, definitely check them out. And Terry's actually got his own podcast, the Rockman podcast, and he's starting it back up since coming on my podcast. So he's going to be releasing the first episode back on Monday, which is in 2 days since recording. But when this is out, it'll be back out, and that's with Bob Thomas, who I've already brought up a couple of times in this podcast already. But yeah, that is an incredible podcast. Definitely check that out.
Today is day 18 of my 496 challenge, where I run 1 kilometre corresponding with the day of the month.
So, day 18. This is where you can see I start getting tired. Fatigue was setting in. I've got a little group chat of some of the previous guests from the podcast. Not all of them, just like a few of them. Like, we just chat random things and support each other. And I messaged in the group that day being like, I'm starting to get really tired. I don't know why. Obviously, it's because I'm running way more than I ever have. And I was like, yeah, you got any advice? And most of it was just about fueling. I realised at that point, I just wasn't eating really, and I wasn't sleeping enough, and I don't think I ate properly. Didn't eat any proper food for the rest of the challenge now. It was just getting calories in. So I definitely could make better decisions with my nutrition, and then my sleep just plummeted. But that was part of the challenge for me. I think I would have done a lot better if I was sleeping right, if I could fit it all in my day, but that was how I sacrificed to make sure it happened. So yeah, I'm wearing a Whoop. Again, another podcaster trope is like Huel and Whoop. And I'm a sucker for it. And my Whoop was going crazy, being like, you're under recovered. And it's funny because towards the end of the challenge, it bases your recovery off the past 3 weeks. And by the end of the challenge, it was telling me I was fully recovered, like in the 90%. And I would look at my stats and I was like, I am still massively under recovered. Like, some of these stats are worse than like a few weeks ago. But because it was set, my baseline is so high, it was just like, yeah, you're recovered now. And I knew I just wasn't.
Right, guys, it's day 19 of the 496 challenge.
Now, day 19, I was massively fatigued. I recorded this inside because I knew if I recorded it and put it out there, I had to go out and run. On that day, I really just did not want to run. I had sat down for about an hour just looking at my shoes, being like, you've got to go out still, and I wasn't doing anything else. I wasn't even procrastinating in the terms of going and doing other things to be like, oh no, I've got this to do. There was none of that. It was just like, I don't want to go out, and I was just so tired, I couldn't be bothered, but I got out and did it.
Right, guys, it is day 20 of the 496 challenge, where I run 1 kilometre corresponding with the day of the month.
So day 20, again, it was a late one. I was running out quite late, just fitting it in around work. It's not easy for me, like especially starting a new job and trying to get clients and do the business and everything else. Yeah, it was difficult, and that was the first time I'd listened back to one of my podcasts as well. And that was a podcast with Grant Grigo. Now, Grant is this incredible human being, such a genuine and inspirational person. I absolutely loved his podcast to the point where I listened back to it on that run, and it just kept me going, and it just made me realise that I chose to be there. No one's forcing me to do that. No one's got a gun up to my head. I'm the one choosing to be there, and the fact I get to choose, that is the privilege in itself.
It's day 21 of my 496 challenge, where I'm running 1 kilometre corresponding with the day of the month. I've got 11 more runs after this one. Yeah, it's my first half marathon, so I'm going to be doing a half marathon a day for 11 days. So that's exciting. While out on these runs, I've been thinking a lot about why I do this. What is the purpose behind me doing this? And something I've been thinking about is all of the friends that I've lost over the years, the people close to me that have passed away, and how they will never get an opportunity to do anything like this. So when I'm thinking about what I can do and the potential I've got, I don't want to waste any of it. I'm out here, I'm running, I'm in the middle of a storm right now, but I've got a half marathon to do. And no matter how hard it gets, it's that little bit easier knowing that I'm trying to fulfill my potential and I'm not wasting any part of that. I see it so much these days with people close to me as well that are getting into drink and drugs and They might just be getting sucked into corporate life, and they're not going out there, they're not pushing themselves, they're not reaching their full potential. So if that's you listening, get out there, get moving, let's reach our potential together.
Now, with this, a big driving factor for me is I had two people that were very close to me that passed away very young. And I've got a tattoo for both of them. I can only show you one on camera because the other one's on my ankle. But I've got this tattoo here. My friend passed away. This was my first ever tattoo. My friend passed away after being in a coma after a bike accident. And it was weeks before his 18th birthday. So he never got to turn 18. He didn't get that privilege, and that was the first time I really understood death. That was the first time I really understood that I'm not gonna live forever. And like, I had just turned 18 probably not that long before, and he didn't get to. And the older I get, the more I realise how lucky I am to be able to just be alive and do the things I like. And that happening really sparked this change in me where I didn't do things because other people were doing them, or because that's what was expected of me, or because that's what I'm supposed to do. I stopped doing all of that. If I didn't like something, and I'm still like this, if I don't like doing something, not in terms of challenging myself, but in terms of if I'm doing a job I hate, if I'm chasing money for nothing, like, as soon as I don't like doing something, I'm not doing it anymore. I will quit that job, and I won't have a backup plan, because I'm just lucky enough that I can still be alive. I don't want to waste any of it doing stuff I don't want to do. Everything I do these days is extremely intentional. I try not to waste any of my time. Obviously, I fall into similar traps that most people do, like I get sucked into social media. I do find myself going down paths and doing things that I'm not particularly, not that I'm not proud of them, but it's not things that's benefiting me. And I know that there's so much more I can get out of life, and I'm just trying to like scratch away at that and make the most out of like every single minute that I can. That's one reason why I do these challenges. I'm just scraping my potential, and I see so many people throw away their lives, and part of what I'm doing is trying to inspire people and let them know that there's more to life than this. So yeah, if you're listening and you've got these goals, or you're finding yourself doing things that you're not proud of, and you're just getting sucked into life, just take a step back and think, what do you really want to do? Yeah, and just do it. Take the risk. Take that step. That's all you got to do. Like, things will be fine in the end. You'll get there. You'll figure something out. And if you don't, you can always go back to what you were doing before. Like, it's as simple as that.
Welcome back to my 496 challenge. Today is day 22, so 22 kilometres. This challenge I'm running 1 kilometre, corresponding with the day of the month. As you know, if you've been following me along this journey, it's a tough one today. I'm sore, I'm tired.
I really started to feel it in my muscles at this point. So day 22, I kept going into work, and I was like, I don't want to do this today. I just want to go home. I want to give up. I don't want to be running in between jobs. I don't want to get to work in the evening and just feel shattered from the rest of the day and be like, I'm not giving everything I can to the kids that I'm working with. I'm not being the best coach I can be. I was giving everything I had at that moment, but I was like, I sacrificed that side of the balance that I was on about to push myself. And like you'll see, I do for the rest of the challenge now. Running a half marathon a day is not particularly easy for me. And it was very fatiguing, especially when you're noticing like the late nights. splitting the runs up to just fit it in around life, and then getting to work and just being tired. That sucked. But then at the same time, I know some of the gymnasts were following my journey and they were encouraging me to keep going, and I want to think that I helped inspire them and get them to push a bit harder and see what it's like to push hard and realise that their coaches have got their own things going on, and being like, you know what, like, this journey is not just about me, like, my coaches are putting in effort too. And realising that, like, they are more capable, and that we're not just saying stuff. I'm not just telling them to work hard because that's what I think's going to get them to the next level. I'm telling them to work hard from a place where I've worked hard and I've pushed myself, and I do that not just in training but in the mental side of coaching as well. Like, I'm constantly researching and looking things up and reading books and trying to be the best coach I can be, and it's all for them. And for them to hopefully realise that and look back and be like, you know what, I can push that bit harder, I can do that a little bit more, and I'm going to get this benefit from it, like, that would mean the world to me.
Alright guys, today is day 23 of the 496 challenge, where I run 1 kilometre corresponding with the day of the month.
Now on this day, that was when I decided, right, I'm going to plan a route, and that's going to be me running on the last day, and I'm going to invite people to come out with me. And that was the first time I put it out there, like, who's going to come with me. I'm going to do the last run. I planned it to go around Butte Park in Cardiff. It was about like 8 laps. I think it ended up being like 9 and a bit laps. But yeah, like, people did turn up, which that was a massive shock to me. I really wasn't expecting anyone to turn up.
Welcome back to day 24 of the 496 challenge, where I run 1 kilometre corresponding with the day of the month. 24k today, and I am dying. Honestly, I'm not sure if I can do this.
Now this point was when I got my injury. So I was running, I ran 12k out to then run 12k home, and I started running home and I started getting a stabbing pain in the back of my knee, and it was so painful that, as you could see, I couldn't run. I had to walk back, and it was so painful, and I was so worried about the back of my knee. But then when I woke up the next day, I realised why my knee was playing up, and I was compensating because my ankle, which I broke a few years ago, that had reached its tipping point and it started swelling up, and I didn't notice it at the time. I only noticed it the next day, where I really struggled to move my ankle, and I must have been compensating for it, and that just strained my hamstring. And I contacted a physio being like, look, I've got this stabbing pain in the back of my knee. What do you recommend? And then I got a message back from him, and over the next couple of days we were back and forth, and I was explaining what was going on with my foot and my ankle as well. And they basically said that they think I should stop running, because I'll be running like 200 kilometers still. I forgot to mention, on day 22, that's the halfway point of the challenge, so I'm only just over the halfway when it comes to distance wise. So yeah, I've got a good 200k to go on a bad foot and ankle, and they were like, you need to stop running and get it looked at, and they thought it was a stress fracture. And in my head I was like, if I go to the hospital and get it looked at and they put me in a cast, I can't finish my challenge. So I was like, this is where the true mental resilience comes in. And like you heard there, I didn't think I was going to complete this challenge. I thought that was it. I was done. I was like, no, I'm injured. I physically can't fit in like a 25k run tomorrow on a like potentially broken foot. Like, how am I going to fit that around work? Like, this is where my pace dropped. This is where it really started to suck, as you'll see. And yeah, this is where I really thought I was going to give up.
It is day 25 of my 496 challenge, where I run 1 kilometre corresponding with the day of the month. Now, my body is really starting to break down now. Where I was running sort of 6-minute kilometres before, currently today I'm down to a 9-minute kilometre, so time is going to be a big thing if I can keep pushing through this pain. My ankle is swollen up so much I can barely move it. I've chucked an ankle brace on, it's not helping. The back of my knee feels like someone's stabbing a knife into the back of it, but I'm still trying. I'm hobbling, but we're going, we're moving. I'm just going to try and do lots of slow stints throughout the day and just rack up the kilometres, and I guess this is what I'll be doing for the rest of the time now as well.
You can sort of hear the resolve in my voice of I'm just going to go slow, I've just got to put up with this pain. But again, I was thinking, like, I'm probably not going to be able to fit it in. I got up really, like, stupidly early to do that one part of the run, and then I did another run at lunch, and then I did another run until like 11 o'clock at night, and I just got home after that, and I was so done for the day, and I was so done in general. Like, my ankle was in agony. That ankle brace did not help at all. If anything, it made it worse, so I stopped wearing it, and every step was just so painful. Now, the pain in my knee did actually ease up, but the pain in my ankle it got worse and worse and worse. Yeah, so that's where you can really see the sort of demeanour of me just change, and everything I thought was hard before that does not compare to what is going to happen on this next clip. Now, this is one clip I have watched back, and I really struggle watching this one back. This is a hard one for me.
Alright guys, this is day 26 of my 496 challenge, where I run 1 kilometre corresponding with the day of the month. So 26k today. This is actually like my 5th take recording this, because each time I've recorded it I've just like burst into tears. I'm in a lot of pain. I'm averaging 10-minute kilometres today, but I have to try and go a bit faster, otherwise I won't fit in my run today. And yeah, I don't wanna fail. I don't wanna feel like a failure. So I'm just gonna keep pushing on, keep it going. Today is really teaching me a lot about vulnerability. I wasn't gonna do a video today, but I'm thinking I probably should show this vulnerable side, because this is what I'm fundraising for, is to try and get people to reach out and feel vulnerable and start going to therapy through BigMoose. So if you are struggling, if you are in a place, it doesn't have to be like a place like I'm in now, but if you're just in a place where you need to talk to someone and you don't have anyone around you, reach out to BigMoose. They can literally change your life.
At this point in the challenge, I thought that was it. I had given up in my head. I was only like 2k into that run, and I was doing that run as one whole run. And then that's where I started thinking about BigMoose and the impact it's had on me. And I felt like if I gave up, I was giving up on them, and I was giving up on everything they stand for. And I didn't want that. I didn't want to feel like a failure. I didn't want to fail something I said I was going to do. Yeah, and like I said, that was probably my 5th time recording that. That was the clip that Mike was talking about. And I just kept telling myself, if I go out a certain distance, I have to get home. So I just kept pushing, and I just went out to the 13k mark, and like, I remember straight after that clip, I called my mum, and I was just like, Mum, I am struggling today. I need to talk to you. I'm getting emotional now. Yeah, I needed to talk to someone, and I needed to let it all out, and I needed to feel vulnerable. and I needed the distraction. Like, at this point, my way of taking my mind off the pain was with distractions. Listening to stuff, talking to people was a big one. I just needed to call people, and I needed to talk, to not feel so alone. And yeah, not a lot of people knew what I was going through at that time. Like, I was in a bad place on that day. There's this clip here, which I'll show you if you can see it.
Day 26 of the 496 challenge. Yeah, you can probably tell I'm in a lot of pain.
And I had to stop the recording because I was just crying, and it was a lot of physical pain. Every step was torture, and all I wanted to do was give up, and I couldn't let myself. I was like, I'm going to keep going until I physically can't go anymore, and that was my mental breaking point. I was done, and I cried for literally like an hour on that run. That was a tough one for me. It didn't get much better, mind, but yeah, I think on every run apart from the last one now, I like, even the day before that, like, I cried a little bit in pain, but I'm pretty sure like every single one of these next runs, like, I cried at some point just through sheer pain.
It is day 27 of my 496 challenge, where I run 1 kilometre corresponding with the day of the month. I am doing this for BigMoose, trying to raise as much money and awareness and get people reaching out to get the help they need through therapy. It's completely free. It's a very quick turnaround.
So this is when I was justifying every run in my head, like, you're doing this for BigMoose. Get out there, go slow, just walk if you have to. I was doing like 10-minute kilometers by this point, where I was used to doing like 5 to 6 minute kilometers, and yeah, it was taking it out of me, just every step in agony, doing minimum half marathon, and yeah, it was breaking me. Like, my times dropped massively. Instead of being out for like, I thought on the last day I'd probably be out like 3 hours, maybe 3.5, taking me like 5 hours. Like, most of these runs here were taking me like 5 hours because I was just in that much pain. I had to keep stopping and slowing down, and I couldn't do it. But somehow I did. I kept going, one foot in front of the other. I don't know what it was in me that kept me going. There was something there that just would not let me stop. Every time I went to stop, I would just go out again.
Welcome back to day 28 of my 496 challenge.
Now, on this day, this was a mind-numbing day. I got back from work, and I still had... So I'd done 2k in the morning, I think. And then I'd done 4k in the afternoon, and then I got back from work, and I still had more to do. And I was just like, I'm just going to run laps of my block, because then if I need to stop at any time, I can just go home. I can just get home, sit down for a bit, sort myself out, and then go out again. And I ended up doing 45 laps of my block just to get it done. There was like 22k, and my block's 500 meters, just under. And yeah, I just switched off, and I just circle after circle after circle. Everyone was looking at me like I was crazy, because they'd see me every like, maybe every like 8 to 10 minutes, maybe a bit quicker than that, probably every like 6 or 7 minutes. But I was going so slow, and they would just see me going past. They'd be in the pub drinking or outside smoking. They'd just see me running lap after lap after lap. They must have just been like, who is this idiot? But that was the only way in my head I could get it done that day.
Here's day 29 of my 496 challenge, where I run 1 kilometre.
that day, I went to work. I was fine at work. I had a bit of a headache, and then I get to work and I do my class. And I come out of my class and I just felt dizzy. I got really dizzy, and I was like, I'm just gonna sit down. Maybe I haven't eaten enough. Maybe my nutrition's been so bad that it's just making me like not feel right. And I sat down for a bit, and then I just like ran off to the toilet, and I just threw up in the toilet. I come out and I just go to my manager like, I'm really sorry, I've just thrown up in the toilet. They're like, what? Yeah, you should probably go home. And then I was like, yeah, I'm gonna go home now. And I started driving home. This is at like 11 o'clock in the morning. Started driving home. I had to pull over twice to throw up out of my car. And then the last time I felt sick in my car, I was literally coming round the block that I was running round the night before. So I was like, I'm on this one-way system. There's a car behind me. There's nowhere to pull over. And I just started throwing up, so I just undid my window, and I was just throwing up out the window. It must have been absolutely disgusting. And I remember I just got in, and I just lay on my bathroom floor for like 2 hours, just throwing up into the toilet. And then I went and lied down, and then I was in bed. I slept for a good 4 hours, and I got up, and I was just like, I've still got 29k to run today. And I just got up, and even though like on this run I threw up 3 times while I was running, I had to take these little like derelict paths. Like most of them weren't even paths, but it's the only way I wanted to be out in public feeling like that, because I knew I was going to be sick at some point, and I didn't want people to like stop and like ask me how I'm doing, or like come and check on me or whatever. Like I just wanted to be alone. And like there were times where I thought I was going to shit myself. There was like, it got to the last K, and I really thought I was going to shit myself, because I thought I like diarrhea, like throwing up. I got pretty close, I'm not going to lie. That was a really slow run. But again, I went out there, I took it one step at a time. And I got my 29k done. And then on day 30, I'm not going to play the video for day 30 because I already know. On day 30, I split it into 3 runs. So I did 1 run in the morning, 1 run between jobs, and then 1 run after work. And run in the morning, I did 2k on the treadmill, just to see how my ankle was doing and if I could still keep going. So I was like, okay, that was rough, but I got it done. And then I was running in the afternoon, and like I said, I was calling my mum quite a lot, speaking to her on the phone, and just feeling really rough. So I was just talking to her, and I was going so slow, and I was doing the math in my head. I was like, I'm doing like this pace. If I keep this pace going, like this is how much I'll cover. I think it must have been like 10 minutes per kilometre, so 6 kilometres per hour, because I knew that when I got back from work at 10 o'clock that night, it would give me 2 hours to run before I failed the challenge. If I went over midnight on a challenge, in my head I failed it because I haven't fit it in that day. So I was like, I know that's the pace I'm currently doing in the pain I'm in and in the state I'm in. And then I was figuring out, right, it's day 30, so 12, and like in my head, like the maths was taking so long because I was just so fatigued. I was like, right, what's 12 from 30? And I was there, and I was like, that's 18. And then I was like, well, I've run 2 already, so that's 16. I was like, I need to get 16k done now. And like that was taking too long. I didn't have the time between jobs to be doing that. So I had to force myself to speed up to be able to do that, and I like literally ran until I had to be at work. I didn't have lunch that day. I didn't really eat that day because I was still feeling rough, and yeah, I ended up doing 18k in the middle, so that only gave me a 10k to finish. but I was still running till midnight. Well, just before midnight. I think it was like 11:45 that night, just to get it done. But I will say that in my head, because that was the last day I was working while doing the challenge, in my head I was done. And I remember that, like, getting to a point on that last run where I then just had to turn around and go back. So I did like it would have been a 6k loop, so then I had to then run out 2k and then run back. And I remember running out, and I got to the turnaround point, and I instantly cheered up. I had this energy about me, and I was like, wow, like, I've done it. I've completed the challenge. Because when I get home, like, that's it. I've done all the hard runs. Tomorrow's going to be easy. I was wrong about that, and I felt really deflated, like, especially after the challenge, like, after I did day 31, because I'd already released that energy on day 30. And that was quite hard for me, dealing with that afterwards, where I'm sat at home on my own. I was like, I've accomplished this thing, and like, I don't feel good about it, because I felt good about it the day before. And it's that thing that sort of mountaineers know, when they want to celebrate getting to the top of the mountain, and that's where a lot of mistakes then happen, because they become complacent, because they still have to get down. And that's where a lot of accidents and essentially deaths happen on the mountains, is people getting complacent because they've reached the top and they still have to get down, and they forget that getting down is just as important as getting up. And that was sort of my experiences. Like, I still had another day. I still had to get down from the mountain, which is equally as dangerous. But yeah, this last run here.
Right guys, today is 31 of my 496 challenge. We're on the last mile now. I've got my mum with me, not that you can see her. I've got Mike, can't see him either.
Oh, yeah.
But he's done the whole thing with me. My mum's done a few laps, even though she's not a runner. So fair play.
And she brought cakes.
Yeah, and she brought cakes, which we are very happy about. But we're done. This is the last stretch now. Only met Mike today, so thanks for coming, Mike. It's been a pleasure. He's going to come on the podcast soon, so yeah, keep an eye out for that podcast. It's going to be a great one, I can tell already from this, like, what, 4 hours of chatting we've just had?
I think so, yeah. 4 hours,
Yeah, 4 hours. But we got it done. The pace was quick. Bob came out as well. Shout out Bob Thomas, absolute idol. But yeah, we're done. I'll do a whole review episode podcast. I'll do a little video.
That's this.
And yeah, just thank you for following the journey. If you haven't already, donate to my BigMoose fundraiser. It's in my highlights. Every pound goes to BigMoose and helps them provide therapy for people like me who are struggling and are now out on the other side doing stupid stuff like this to raise money. So thank you, and see you next time.
So that was that for me. Yeah, let me turn the screen record off. That was the challenge. Like I said, Bob Thomas came out for the last run. He ran the first 4 laps with me, so the first half essentially. And then he went off and did a bike session. But it was really great having Bob there to come and support me. Mike, as I said, he's coming on the podcast soon. He came out, he ran with me, he did all of the laps with me, every last one. And I didn't know Mike. He didn't even know about me until like the week before he came out running with me. He had listened to an episode of the podcast, he'd seen us doing the challenge. I was back and forth with him on Instagram, and he'd seen that I was trying to get people out with me, and he was like, I'm going to turn up. And he really showed up. He brought me food. That was incredible. Thank you so much, Mike. I know you're listening. Yeah, I'm excited for our podcast together. But thank you so much for coming. That meant, honestly, it meant the world to me, especially like you coming down, Bob coming down, and then my mum came down as well. And that was incredible because she had driven all the way from London. It was her day off, and she came from London to support my last run. She did. 2 laps with me, and she's not a runner. She exercises, not a runner, and that's 8k. So for 8k for someone that doesn't run is incredible. So well done, mum. Like, I'm proud of you. Thank you for coming out. That honestly meant so much. And then just as I was finishing, my mate Sam pulled up again, previous podcast guest. He pulled up and he came back to mine and he ordered me a pizza. So shout out Sam for buying me a pizza after I'd finished. I think he maybe ran like 500 meters with us, just because I wouldn't let him not run with us if he's turned up. But yeah, like, that was some of the worst weather I'd been running in, other than the storm. That was horrendous. But yeah, that's it. That's the summary of my 496 challenge. It was an absolute roller coaster of a challenge. I went through so many ups and downs, and then signing up to do it with BigMoose on day 12, fundraising for them, committing to raising £10,000 for them. Going through broken foot, like a stress fracture in my foot, which I'm still recovering from now. Like, it still hurts, but we're moving, we're doing it. Getting back into weight training, going through illness and throwing up on my runs, like, that took a lot out of me, and the fact I had no energy, sleepless nights and all of that, like, it was hard. It was definitely a challenge. I got many more coming up, but that's it. What I really want to take away from that is that I am mentally resilient. As much as I don't look up to myself sometimes, and I am very hard on myself, and I always expect more of myself, I don't always celebrate what's good about me, and that's quite hard to deal with sometimes, and that's something I'm working on, and like, reflecting on that and what I put myself through, like, I can't even, like, it wasn't even 2 weeks ago. Like, I'm recording this like kind of soon afterwards, and even looking back at that, like, and seeing the pain I'm going through and almost reliving it, I don't know how I pushed through that. There's something in me that gives me that drive to just push more and want to do more, and I've got all these little things, like having my mate that passed away, that keeps me going, and having that desire in me to push and be better and try and inspire those around me, and doing all these things, like, when it really boils down to it, I don't know how I keep going. Like, I don't know where I get my grit and determination from. All I do know is I'm far more capable than I give myself credit for, and I think that's true for a lot of people. I think everyone listening could achieve a lot more than what they give themselves credit for. I think we just need to push a bit harder and really try and experience everything. I'm not someone that, when I'm thinking of like happiness or emotions or anything like that on a scale, say it's on like a scale of 1 to 10, I don't want to live in the middle. I don't want to be like a flat 5 and like just glide through life. I don't want it to be that. I want to experience the massive highs that life's got to give you and really appreciate the world around me. But at the same time, to reach those highs, like, you don't just have to have the lows to have the highs. Like, it's not, oh, you can't have one without the other. You have the highs because of the lows. They are the reason you get to have the highs. It's not like a thing where it's like, oh, I'm going to have these highs and then I'll have the lows afterwards. It's like, no, you go through the lows to get to the highs. That's what it's about. You have to put yourself through the shit almost. Like, you have to go through the wars to appreciate everything that you've got in your life. And like, if it wasn't for my friend passing away, there is no way I'd have done half the stuff I've done with my life. And it's all thanks to him. And not just like, it sounds bad because it's not because he died that makes me do these things. It's the person that he was and the person that he made me aspire to be like when he was alive. And everything else is my celebration to that. And that goes to both of my friends that have passed away. Like, I've got some very fond memories of both of them and how they've changed me as a person. And I don't want to let them down. I am 100% here for them, and I am living my best life because I know they don't get to. Yeah, and I think that sums it up. I don't think I've got much more to say. I have rambled on for an hour and 40 minutes. So if you've listened, thank you for listening. If you want to hear more podcasts like this, like solo podcasts where I'm reviewing things and doing all that jazz, hopefully I'll get better at it. I'm hoping I've been better at podcasting since the first episode. I'm pretty sure I have. I've been trying to get better every single episode. So yeah, if you want to hear more solo ones and go along that journey with me, let me know. Send me a DM, comment, whatever it is. Share this about. It's going to help more than you honestly ever realise. What I learnt from this as well, from podcasting, and I was speaking to Jeff from BigMoose about this, is I get so much from doing these podcasts, like talking to the guests and learning from their experiences. Like, I benefit so much from it. It pushes me to do these challenges. So I want to be able to share that with people. If I'm getting stuff from it, I can guarantee there's people out there that are going to benefit from it. So like Jeff said, it is my duty to try and like get this out there, because what we're talking about is so beneficial to people. So please share this around. Like, let's get people listening. If there's people you know that need help, send them to BigMoose. If you want to help people, people that you might not ever meet, like, donate. Like, all of your money goes directly into getting therapy for those in need. I've benefited from it. So if you donated to BigMoose previously, that could have been paying for my therapy, and that honestly has changed my life. So thank you, BigMoose. Thank you for all the listeners, and thank you to my podcast guests. I will leave it on this one little story, which did end up being how I started this challenge. So I had Rhys Jenkins on the podcast. He's a very sort of well-known ultra runner in South Wales. He had the fastest known time for the Welsh Coastal Path. We've spoken to him obviously on the podcast, and we've spoken about him on the podcast as well. If it wasn't for him, I wouldn't know about Bob Thomas. If I didn't know about Bob Thomas, I wouldn't have felt inclined, like, in the back of my head to do this challenge. If I hadn't have done those episodes, I wouldn't have met Nathan. If I didn't meet Nathan, like, I don't think I'd have known Mike, and I wouldn't have had him running with me, and I wouldn't have known Ben either, so I wouldn't have followed Ben to then follow up on the 496 challenge, for it to be brought back into my mind, and then I wouldn't have done any of this. I wouldn't have achieved this. So this all stems from, in my head, well, obviously starting the podcast, but then getting Rhys on the podcast, and it's all just sort of snowballed from there. So it's crazy how one positive interaction can have a massive snowball effect on someone's life. So my challenge this week, because we do the weekly challenge, is go out there and do something nice for someone. Doesn't matter who it is. It could be donating to a charity. It could be like doing one of those corny, I'm going to pay for the next person's meal sort of thing. It could be anything like that. It could be just like talking to a homeless person. Like, I've been homeless, and part of what's so upsetting about being homeless is how people look at you and don't treat you like a person. So just having people talk to me, that would make my day. So yeah, just go out there, do a random act of kindness, and yeah, let me know what you do, because yeah, honestly, that's what keeps me going. And I'm hoping I'm having a positive effect on the listeners. I'm hoping you're enjoying the content. Please let me know, leave a review, Spotify, YouTube, wherever, however you want to do it. Just let me know what you want to hear about, and I will do my best to do it. But that wraps it up. Thank you for listening to the podcast, and I'll see you next week. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Adventure Athletes podcast. If you like this episode, make sure you follow us on Instagram, Spotify and YouTube, and share our content around. It helps more than you can ever imagine. Now, if there's a person in particular that you want to hear from, or a topic that you want us to cover, just drop us a message, let us know in our DMs, and we'll make sure we try and reach out to the relevant people to cover that topic for you. We're always trying to make content that you guys want to listen to. We have just dropped our website. It's adventureathletes.co.uk, and you can go on there to find out the range of different services we offer. So we have sports massage, different training programs, and personal training, both online and in person, that you can sign up to on the website. So make sure you go and check us out at adventureathletes.co.uk.